Hello everyone. Pretty much anyone into socialist politics has run into the line at some point. Communism killed 100 million people in the past century. It's a claim that was progenerated by the Black Book of Communism, that is perpetuated by Western media despite the fact that the numbers were inflated for the sole purpose of hitting the 100 million mark, included Wehrmacht soldiers and SS officers in the death toll of communism, and that half of the authors have since discredited this work. To this day, the main atrocities that anti-communists talk about when spewing propaganda are the Holodomor, the Great Purge, the Great Leap Forward, and the Cultural Revolution. Allow me to just individually knock these down right quick. The Holodomor is a term given to the Soviet famine of 1930 to 1933 by Ukrainian nationalists who want the same sense of victimhood as the Jews have over the Holocaust. This was meant to paint the Soviet Union in an equally negative light as the German Reich, and drag socialism through the mud to the point that it looks just as bad as fascism, an ideology that these people support either knowingly or by proxy. The Holodomor is claimed to have resulted in the deaths of 5 million ethnic Ukrainians in their homeland as well as the Kuban and in Kazakhstan. The truth is that the Holodomor focuses purely on Ukrainian deaths and not on any other ethnicity. The famine also affected the northern Caucasus, the Volga region, the southern Ural region, and western Siberia. The famine affected Kazakhstan more per capita than any other region in the Soviet Union. Studies on ethnic motivation for the famine typically turn up inconclusive, owing to the fact that there are a lack of documents ordering deliberate starvation of any area of the Soviet Union by the Stalin administration. The famine itself was caused by a combination of low harvest due to droughts, a spike in demand due to industrialization, and anti-Soviet farmers in Ukraine known as kulaks who hoarded grain in an effort to destabilize Soviet control in the region. The Great Purge was an effort by the Stalin administration to prevent party infiltration and instability within the Soviet Union by Trotskyists, capitalist sympathizers, nationalist groups within the Soviet Union, and monarchy loyalists. Leon Trotsky was an opportunist that attempted to seize power after Lenin passed away. He was exiled to Alma-Ata and was eventually deported from the Soviet Union for trying to stage a coup against the Stalin administration. Even while in exile, he continued to write and speak publicly against Stalin and smuggle his work into the Soviet Union. Trotsky himself even admitted to negotiating with Hitler's deputy, Rudolf Hess. Fearing an attempt to overthrow the Soviet government and sow instability within the country, the Stalin administration, specifically the NKVD, began arresting, executing, and deporting Trotskyists and other suspected counter-revolutionaries. The Great Purge claimed the lives of various people whose status ranged from Gulag inmates to political advisors. The Great Purge extended into Mongolia and East Turkestan, which were Soviet allies or satellite states during the Great Purge. The Soviet government lost control of the NKVD and the extrajudicial organs that were carrying out mass repressions without proper investigations. In November 1938, an investigation was launched by Stalin into the NKVD, and what resulted was a succession of mass repressions and the invalidation of sentences of anyone arrested for suspected counter-revolutionary activity without proper investigation or a fair trial, and the effective end of the Great Purge. Seeing Trotsky as the source of the problem, the Soviet government eventually sent a spy into Mexico to execute him. Beria, the head of the NKVD at the end of the Great Purge, was eventually arrested as a British agent. A high-end estimate claims that 1.2 million people died as a result of the Great Purge. The Great Leap Forward, in and of itself, is said to have claimed upwards of 55 million lives. The Great Leap Forward was a campaign of industrialization that sought to lift China's economy off the ground following the communist victory in the Chinese Civil War. The deaths caused by the famines and natural disasters are often propagated as being a result of the Great Leap Forward. The Great Chinese Famine, which happened entirely during the Great Leap Forward, resulted in just as many deaths as were told the Great Leap Forward caused. The Great Leap Forward did not cause the famine. The famine was caused by typhoons, droughts, floods, and infestation epidemics that resulted in low harvest. Then there's the Cultural Revolution, which Western propagandists claim was an act of violence. The death toll is some vague hundreds of thousands to millions. The Cultural Revolution was pretty much the same as the Great Purge. China sought to eliminate counter-revolutionary activity and thought, as well as capitalist and imperialist elements within their culture. The Gang of Four were opportunists that used the Cultural Revolution to expand their power and influence, and were ultimately arrested at the end of the Cultural Revolution for instigating repression and violence. There's also a thing in recent history about the Uyghur genocide, but before just buying into this, I urge people to look at how the US treats immigrants and draw the parallels, and also know that international Muslim organizations have praised China for their treatment of the Xinjiang natives and improving Uyghur lives as a way to fight domestic terrorism. Now that we've proven the Holodomor and the Great Leap Forward to be nonsense and analyzed the motives of the Great Purge and the Cultural Revolution, let's now take a look at at the atrocities committed by capitalism and its variants, fascism, imperialism, and constitutional monarchy. Let's start with the low-hanging fruit here, the Holocaust. The 6 million figure is almost always used, but that only covers how many Jews were killed. An additional 3.3 million Soviet POWs, 1.8 million Poles, at least 310,000 Serbs, 270,000 disabled people, at least 250,000 Romanis, 80,000 Freemasons, at least 20,000 Slovenes, at least a few hundred homosexuals, 3,500 Spanish Republicans, and 1,700 Jehovah's Witnesses were killed, bringing the figure to over 12 million. The Japanese Empire progenerated what is often called the Asian Holocaust. Between the rape of Nanking, human experimentation, death marches, forced starvation, and various other massacres, the Japanese Empire racked up a kill count of at least 19 million. A total kill count of 31 million. Even this doesn't even account for the death toll of World War II, excluding Axis deaths on the Eastern Front as well as Japanese losses in the Soviet-Japanese War. Almost 68 million soldiers and people considered civilians died. 10 million Soviet soldiers sacrificed themselves to defend the revolution, with an additional 10 million having been lost due to German war crimes and resulting famine and disease. The rest is a hodgepodge of self-inflicted atrocity by the capitalist system and its interests. The total kill count now lies at approximately 99 million. The Irish potato famine occurred under the occupying British Empire. Crop failure and the British, following laissez-faire and divine providence doctrines, refused to distribute healthy harvest to the starving Irish. The death toll is estimated to be 1 million, bringing capitalism's kill count to the 100 million mark in just 4 atrocities. Being that these atrocities didn't occur within the past century, however, I think we should dig deeper. The Bengal famine of 1943 was caused by tropical cyclones in the northern Indian Ocean, disease, crop failure, and low harvest. When asked about the famine, Winston Churchill had this to say: "At least 800,000 people died from the famine." The Rwandan genocide was triggered by the assassination of President Juvenal Habyarimana. The Hutus were the ruling ethnic group in Rwanda at the time and had been oppressing the Tutsi and Twa groups. At least 500,000 Tutsis were killed, along with 10,000 Twa. Capitalism's kill count now exceeds 101 million total, and 100 million in the past century. The colonization of the Americas. Europeans brought disease, hunted the bison nearly to extinction, chased the natives off their land, massacred innocents, waged war on tribes that resisted, conducted death marches in the process of relocating the natives, and have either assimilated the rest or are currently imposing apartheid onto them. Upwards of 100 million natives died between Columbus's quote-unquote discovery of America and the most recent armed confrontation between European settlers and native resistance. The Armenian genocide, perpetrated by the Ottoman Empire, resulted in at least 600,000 deaths. The death toll of World War I, fought entirely between capitalists, imperialists, and constitutional monarchies, resulted in a total of 17 million deaths. In 2021, Indonesia saw 13.8 deaths per 100,000 people due to starvation. Given that the population of Indonesia was 276,758,053, over 38,000 people died that year due to starvation. If we assume that this is the case for the past 100 years, then 3.8 million people died in Indonesia in the past century. The American Revolutionary War, fought between capitalists, imperialists, and constitutional monarchies, resulted in almost 210,000 deaths. The American Civil War saw at least 616,000 deaths. While deaths from chattel slavery in the US are completely unknown, it is estimated that at least 1.8 million would-be slaves died just on their way across the Atlantic Ocean. The War of 1812, fought between capitalist America and imperialist Britain, resulted in 35,000 deaths. Almost 940,000 Russian revolutionaries gave their life to liberate their country and comrades from feudalism and defend the revolution from capitalist intervention. About 264,000 Chinese revolutionaries gave their life in their own revolution against the nationalist dictatorship of the bourgeoisie. During the Vietnam War, capitalist forces intervened on the side of the puppet regime that they set up in the fallout of World War II. The capitalist Legion of Horror claimed the lives of at least 879,000 Vietnamese, 1,100 Chinese, 16 Soviets, and 14 North Koreans, adding up to over 880,000 deaths. Same thing happened in Korea. At least 1.6 million civilians died over the course of the war. The Congo genocide, perpetrated by Belgium under Leopold II, resulted in upwards of 13 million deaths. The War on Terror, some say it's still ongoing, but it officially ended in 2021. It encompasses the US invasion of Afghanistan, the US invasion of Iraq, and the war on ISIS. At least 4.5 million people died as a result. Operation Condor, anti-communist political repression campaign, was spearheaded by the US and killed no less than 60,400 people. The Taiping Rebellion was a war in Imperial China that claimed the lives of at least 20 million people. The British and French Empire stepped in during the latter half to put the rebellion down. The conquests of Menelik II, resulting in the establishment of the Ethiopian Empire, and backed by the British and French, left a trail of blood from 6 million people. The Second Congo War, fought primarily between capitalists, nationalists, and fascists, and often regarded as the African World War, resulted in at least 5.4 million deaths. The East Timor Genocide, perpetrated by Indonesia and backed by the Carter administration, resulted in at least 80,000 deaths. According to BLS data, so this may even be intentionally skewed to limit the number of deaths accounted for, one worker in the US dies every 96 minutes due to unsafe working conditions. That's 15 deaths daily. Multiply that by 365 and that's 5,475 deaths every year. Meaning that in the past century, at least 547,500 deaths occurred due to unsafe working conditions. Just in the US. How about poverty? In just 2019, 183,000 people aged 15 or older died due to the effects of poverty. Meanwhile, the country coddles billionaires and allows them to hold lavish weddings, space rides, and all that other bullshit. If we assume this death toll occurred every year for 100 years, then that's 18.3 million deaths. In India, 2.5 million die from poverty-related causes each year. That's 125 million over the course of just the past 50 years. The kill count of capitalism arrives at a low-end estimate of over 420 million deaths. Cue Elon's goofy-ass giggling. I could go on all day, but do you really want to sit here and hear me list off any more genocides and inter-capitalist wars? Want more statistics? I guarantee you there's blood on the hands of every Western bourgeois dictatorship. The point I'm trying to make with this video is that not only is the Black Book of Communism just full of bullshit, it completely ignores the death cult that capitalism is. Even right now, the US and our client states are sponsoring ethnic cleansing and mobilizing for war, looking for any reason they can to start another imperialist war that will only lead to millions more people dying. If not in the crossfires or the front lines, then from the resultant famines and infrastructure damage. The only war we ought to have is a war of liberation. Liberation of the working class and oppressed peoples, and liberation from this oppressive system which uses our tax dollars to mass murder innocents halfway across the earth, and allows wealthy individuals to hoard wealth to the point that they are able to look down on us literally from orbit as we starve and toil away, barely able to feed our families. We're all being screwed over in the current political and economic system. It is designed so that only a lucky few make it out of a meaningless existence, while those that try to live a semblance of a normal life are doomed to utter failure. It's time we rise and wrest control of our fates out of the hands of oligarchs and the charlatans we call politicians. In ending this video, I'd like to urge the people that watch this video to do a few things. Assuming you haven't already done so, number 1, read theory. A few books I think are relevant to what this video is at least trying to express are The Principles of Communism by Frederick Engels, Capital by Karl Marx, and Imperialism, the Highest Stage of Capitalism by Vladimir Lenin. I also highly recommend watching Hakim's channel, who also did a video on this topic recently, suggesting a kill count nearly 10 times as high. Number 2, unionize your workplace. Contact a representative at a union that is relevant to your line of work and begin organizing. Be prepared for resistance from the corporate level. Number 3, join a socialist organization. This is a key component of the class struggle. Don't limit your action to the workplace. Get involved in every aspect of society. Join protests, go to meetings, and when the revolution seems all but ready, start pushing for cooperation with other orgs. If you fancy a trip to the ballot box, vote for socialist candidates. I will leave a link to a union and a socialist org, both of which I have chosen completely at random. Start there and start today. I think we have what it takes, but what we lack is organization, solidarity, and understanding. And that's where I'm dropping the mic. If you liked this video and agreed with my points, please click thumbs up, share this video with your friends, family, and coworkers, leave your thoughts in the comments below, discourse is always encouraged, and please subscribe for more content like this, as there will be more, and click the bell to get notified when I upload. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back soon with another video. Bye guys.